Ranger Leah Montgomery had always loved the quiet. She relished the hush that fell over her ranger station each night, when the last of the campers disappeared into their tents and the only sounds came from the sigh of the wind through the pines. Out in Redwood Canyon Park, the nights were especially still. No highways, no city hum, just starlight and rustling trees. Over the years, she'd grown used to the solitude, even welcomed it. She'd stand on the station's porch at midnight, mug of coffee in hand, and watch the silhouettes of towering redwoods fade into darkness. In that hush, she felt at peace, part of something vast and ancient. But the night it all began, the silence felt different. Anticipatory, almost claustrophobic. She couldn't quite place it until her radio hissed to life. She was halfway through her shift paperwork, writing up a small scuffle between campers, when a burst of static made her jump. The station's overhead fluorescent lights buzzed, and for a moment she froze, pen hovering above the incident report. Then it came, a frantic scream. "Hello! Someone help!" A voice crackled over the frequency, trembling with panic. Leah recognized the standard channel for park emergencies. She scrambled to pick up her handheld radio. "This is Ranger Montgomery," she said, pulse quickening. "Identify yourself, please." Heavy breathing, followed by a man's voice. "My friend, she's hurt. We're near Redwood Canyon's overlook. Some kind of fall. Hurry." "Calm down," Leah said, trying to project composure. She grabbed a notepad. "Tell me your name. What's your location exactly?" The man's voice rattled. I'm Kyle. We were on the canyon trail. We tried going off trail a bit. She fell, there's blood. I don't know, please. Help." A burst of static drowned his words. Leah's chest tightened. "Kyle, I hear you. I'm dispatching a rescue. Stay put if possible. Keep her warm. I'm on my way." Silence fell, broken only by faint static. No more instructions, no final confirmation. Leah repeated her questions. Nothing. She set down the radio, heart pounding. A hiker injured near Redwood Canyon was no joke. Its rocky ledges were perilous. She'd responded to more than one accident there. She needed to hurry. She grabbed her gear. First aid kit, flashlight, thermal blankets, and the station's old Jeep keys. Moments later, she was driving on the rough forest road, high beams cutting through the dense night. Redwood Canyon Overlook was a good 20 minutes away. She prayed she wasn't too late. By the time she reached the parking area near Redwood Canyon Overlook, the moon had emerged from the clouds, illuminating the silent expanse of pines. The vantage here offered a sweeping view of the canyon walls, towering red-brown cliffs that dropped into darkness. She killed the engine. The hush immediately enveloped her. She expected to see a second vehicle or a flashlight out in the distance, but the lot was empty. No sign of hikers. Weird, she thought, stepping out into the chilly air. She radioed again. "Kyle, this is Ranger Montgomery. I'm at the Overlook parking area. Do you read me?" Static, then nothing. Unease gnawed at her gut. She donned her headlamp, locked the Jeep, and headed onto the unlit trail. The Overlook path, a winding half-mile stretch, ended at a fenced viewpoint. If they'd gone off trail, that meant the slope beneath might be tricky. "Kyle," she called into the darkness. No response. The wind gusted, making the tall redwoods creak. The faint trail of her headlamp lit the path. She saw no footprints, no signs of a scuffle. Still, the radio call had sounded so desperate. She pressed on, scanning for any clue. Minutes later, the path opened onto the overlook, a flat, rocky ledge with a sturdy railing. The canyon yawned beyond, invisible except for faint moonlit lines in the distance. She swept her flashlight left and right. No one. Her heartbeat thudded. Could they have moved on? She stepped past the railing, shining her beam downward along the canyon's edge. Suddenly a faint glimmer caught her eye. A reflection. She crouched, picking up a plastic water bottle lying on a small outcrop. Could be random litter, or could belong to Kyle's group. Then a voice cut through the silence. "Help! Please, help!" Leah's heart jumped. The voice echoed among the trees, off to her right, deeper into the forest. She pivoted, shining her flashlight that way. "Kyle, is that you?" No response, just a whisper carried by the wind. Help. She swallowed. The voice sounded off, stifled. But she recognized the frantic tone from earlier, or so she thought. She scrambled up, stepping away from the ledge. Hang on. I'm coming. Leah followed the voice down a narrower, unmarked path that branched from the main overlook trail. The ground sloped downward, strewn with pine needles. The thick canopy overhead blocked much of the moonlight, so she relied on her flashlight's beam. Kyle, she called. Keep calling so I can find you. Silence. Then faintly the same voice echoed, This way, hurry. A prickle of unease crawled up her spine. Something about the tone made her skin crawl. It was almost too hollow. But she shrugged it off. Fear could make voices sound strange. The path twisted deeper into the forest. Giant redwoods loomed on all sides. Her boots scuffed the earth, crunching twigs that snapped too loudly in the hush. Each step felt like trespassing into an older, darker realm. After another 100 yards, she paused at a forked two-game trails diverging. She scanned each with her flashlight, calling out again. No reply. She frowned, shining the beam on the ground for footprints. Then, as if cued by her frustration, the voice resumed. Over here! Help! She jerked her flashlight up. The sound came from the left path. She hurried onward, adrenaline surging. The track wound around a large boulder, thick brush tangling the edges. Leah had to duck beneath low-hanging branches. Her mind buzzed with questions. Where was the friend who fell? Why was Kyle leading her away from the overlook? The foul smell of decaying foliage assaulted her nose. She coughed, struggling past the brush. The moon's glow barely reached here, leaving her reliant on her flashlight's shaky beam. Rounding a bend, she found a small clearing. At the far side, something rustled in the undergrowth, a shape that might be a person. She stepped closer, hand on her radio. Kyle? As her flashlight fell on the figure, Leah realized it was no hiker in a bright jacket. Instead, she saw a man in tattered clothing, crouched near a fallen log. He looked disheveled, face gaunt, eyes wide with alarm. When he noticed her, he raised a shaking hand. Stop! He hissed, voice urgent. Don't go any further! Leah blinked in confusion. Are you Kyle? He shook his head vigorously, eyes flicking left and right. No, I heard you calling out. You used that voice, the woman's voice. Her pulse raced. What do you mean? I got a distress call. Someone named Kyle needed help. The man clutched at a bruise on his forearm, wincing. He looked as if he'd crawled through briars scratches covered his arms and dried mud streaked his pants. It isn't Kyle, he whispered, voice trembling. I heard it too. A man's voice begging for help, but it's not real. It's a lure. Leah stepped back. A lure? What are you talking about? He tried to stand but winced, leaning on the log. I heard the voice and followed it for hours, I swear. I realized too late it was leading me in circles. Then he swallowed, shuddering. I saw it. Something. Wearing a man's shape. But it wasn't right. Its head. Oh God. A chill rippled through Leah. She recalled the radio calls, the bizarre hush. Are you alone? He nodded, gaze flicking around. My buddy left me to find help. He never came back. Then I heard your voice, or something like it, calling for help. Leah's scalp prickled. I never called for help. I was the one responding to a call. Terror lit his eyes. See, that's what it does. It uses your voice against you, mimics it. Don't follow it. We have to leave. She fought a swirl of confusion. But someone's out here, right? You said your friend. He paled. If he's still alive, I can't imagine. We should get out now. That thing, it imitates. Leah stared at him. The man's sincerity was palpable, his fear contagious. She weighed the possibility of a hoax, but the raw terror in his eyes stung her more deeply than any suspicious detail. All right, she relented. We'll head back to my jeep. I'll call for backup and we'll get you medical attention. Relief flickered across his face. Yes, let's hurry. She offered her arm to support him. He limped along, wincing with each step, as they retraced the narrow path back. She tried her radio again, nothing but static. They walked quickly, the forest pressing close. Shadows danced in her flashlight beam. The man, he never gave his name, kept glancing over his shoulder, muttering that they had to be quiet. A few minutes later, the hush shattered. A scream echoed through the trees, a male scream. "Help! Ranger!" Leah froze. The man's grip on her arm tightened. "That's him," she whispered, "the same voice from my radio call." He shook his head vehemently. "It's not a man. Don't go." But the scream came again, choked with desperation. "Please, anyone!" Guilt twisted Leah's stomach. She was a ranger. Her duty was to help. Was there a real victim, or was it a trap? She opened her mouth to reply, but the man hissed, "Don't answer. If you do, it will know exactly where you are." Leah's mind whirled. She took a hesitant step forward. "But if it's a real person," the man grabbed her sleeve. "That's how it tricked me. I heard my friend's voice. It led me deeper until I saw." He squeezed his eyes shut. "I can't describe it." Suddenly the forest seemed to exhale, the wind rustling the branches. Then, impossibly, Leah heard her own voice in the distance. "Is someone out there? Help me." Her blood ran cold. She definitely had not spoken. Her own voice echoed again. "I'm here by the canyon, hurry!" Terror stole her breath. She locked eyes with the man, who looked equally horrified. "In your voice now?" he whispered. "Oh God." Leah's instincts roared with alarm. "We need to get out of here," she muttered. The man nodded, wincing as he started limping faster. They pressed on, the flickering beam of Leah's flashlight guiding them up the slope. The path was narrower than she remembered, as though the brush had grown. Thorns snagged at her sleeves. Their footsteps sounded too loud in the stillness. Behind them, the forest erupted with movement. Branches cracked, leaves rustled. Footfalls that weren't theirs padded across the undergrowth, circling. The man gasped, eyes darting. Then the screams returned. Only now, it was Leah's voice mingling with another female's voice, both calling from different directions. "Help! I'm hurt! Hurry!" Leah's blood iced over. The voices overlapped, repeated, twisted. Some sounded hysterical, others calm, each echoing her distinct timbre. She realized they were being surrounded by a chorus of her own pleas. The man moaned in terror. "It's calling them." Others. Leah couldn't rationalize this. She'd handled wild animals, even cunning predators, but this was beyond nature. Summoning every scrap of courage, she guided the man forward. "Come on, keep moving, don't listen." One of the voices drifted uncomfortably close. Leah, help me." She clenched her jaw, ignoring it. Each time the wind stirred, a new whisper joined, some frantic, some mocking. The forest was alive with mimicry. At last, they reached a small clearing, lit faintly by moonlight. Leah recognized the shape of a large boulder she'd passed it earlier. They were close to the Overlook Trail. Relief nudged her heart. But that relief vanished the moment a figure stepped into the clearing from the opposite side. It was a man wiry in torn hiking clothes. At first, Leah thought it might be the Kyle, who called for help. But something was off. His movements were stilted, arms hanging too rigidly at his sides. "Stay back," Leah warned, raising her flashlight. The figure didn't speak, just took a halting step forward. The man at Leah's side trembled. "That's the shape I saw," he whispered. "It's not human." As if it heard, the figure tilted its head at an impossible angle, neck cracking like a dry branch. Moonlight caught its face eyes too wide, mouth slightly parted in a crooked grin. Then, in a voice that matched Leah's exactly, it said, "You should have kept walking." Cold horror spiked through her veins. The man behind her let out a frightened gasp. The figure repeated her words with perfect inflection, even capturing the breathless edge. Then it grinned wider, revealing teeth that looked sharper than they should be. "Leah," it whispered, again in her voice. "Run." She didn't need more prompting. She tugged the disheveled man's arm and bolted toward the overlook. The figure's neck twitched, head rotating to follow them. Suddenly, the clearing erupted with more movement. Dark shapes flitted between the trees, each letting out a snippet of Leah's voice or the man's frantic cries. It was as though an entire crowd of mimic things was converging. Leah's heart thundered as they sprinted up the path. The man stumbled, but she half-dragged him, adrenaline fueling her strength. Twigs snapped underfoot, and behind them, multiple footsteps pounded the ground. Her mind reeled. How many are out here? Each shape was half-glimpsed, darting behind trunks. The chorus of voices echoed. "Leah! Over here! Help me! I'm hurt! Run!" Some were high-pitched, others deeper. All carried that same unnatural lilt. They burst onto the main trail leading back to the overlooked parking area. Leah recognized the vantage fence, the moonlight reflecting on the canyon. Just beyond, the distant shape of the lot where her jeep waited. If they could just make it that far, a guttural cry ripped through the night. She glanced back. One of the figures tackled the man, yanking him from her grasp. He hit the dirt with a thud, screaming. Leah whirled around, raising her flashlight. "Hey! Let him go!" She saw a gaunt figure pinning him, limbs contorted. In the moonlight, its face was half-shadowed, but she glimpsed a mouth parted in a grin. She tried to move forward, but another figure lunged from the side, blocking her path. The stench of rotting leaves and something coppery assaulted her nose. She reeled back. Behind that second figure, the pinned man screamed again, then went silent. Horrified, Leah saw him slump. His assailant rose slowly, turning to face her. In the dim light, she saw droplets on its chin, reflecting in the moon's glow. Terror stabbed her heart. She took a step back, then another. She was alone, no backup. She fumbled for her radio again, but her shaking hands nearly dropped it. No time. The shape advanced, posture jerking like a poorly controlled puppet. Then it stilled, head tilting. Abruptly, it changed, features morphing, body contorting. In the space of seconds, it shifted to resemble the man it had just attacked, albeit with eyes too large and grin too wide. "Leah," it croaked in the man's voice. "Don't run." She ran. Leah sprinted up the trail, ignoring the branches that clawed her arms. Her lungs burned. The path curved around the ledge. She fought to maintain balance, the steep drop on one side. If she slipped, the canyon waited below. Behind her, footsteps hammered. The forest thrummed with the echoes of voices, all calling her name or screaming for help. She tried to block it out. Her only focus: reach the parking area, get in the jeep. She rounded the final bend. There, just ahead, a break in the tree line revealed the small gravel lot. The shape of her truck glinted under the moon. Relief surged. She crashed through the final line of bushes and froze. The jeep's headlights were on, illuminating the lot. That was strange. She'd turned them off earlier. Worse, she saw herself, or a figure looking exactly like her, sitting behind the wheel, hands on the steering wheel, staring straight at her. Her mind reeled, refusing to accept it. The figure, her doppelganger, slowly turned its head, meeting her gaze through the windshield. Even at a distance, she saw the reflection of eyes too bright, too intense. She staggered backward, heart pounding. "No," she whispered. Footsteps closed in behind her. She spun around to see multiple shapes emerging from the trees, some tall, some hunched, each face half in shadow. A few resembled the disheveled man, others wore partial illusions of random hikers, but each one had that same unnatural grin. One of them, a gaunt woman's shape, parted its lips and said in Leah's exact voice, "You should have kept walking." The shapes fanned out, blocking her from the forest. She stepped back, realizing they were corralling her toward the jeep, where that other Leah waited inside. Panic flared. She had nowhere to run except the canyon's edge to her left, or the jeep to her right. The shapes started to circle, their many voices overlapping in a macabre chorus. "Help me, Leah. Don't run. You're lost. We have you now." Her own voice repeated 1,000 ways, her vision blurred from fear. She raised her radio to her lips, though she doubted it would help. "Anyone, please," she shouted. "There's something, they're mimics. Help me." Static. One shape, wearing the man's face, hissed in the same man's voice. "No help. Only us." A shudder racked her. She realized the only chance was to break through them to her jeep. She didn't relish encountering the doppelganger inside, but maybe she could start the engine ram out of the lot. She inhaled, mustering her courage, and sprinted for the jeep. The shapes lunged, but she was quick, adrenaline fueling her steps. Gravel sprayed as she slid to the driver's side door. She yanked it open. Inside, the figure turned to face her. It was Leah, down to the uniform stitching, the same hair color, the same face, except the eyes were black voids and the grin too wide. Up close, she saw the teeth were jagged, like predator fangs. It spoke in her voice, "You're too late." Without thinking, Leah slammed the butt of her flashlight across its face. The blow connected with a sickening crack. The entity shrieked, the pitch too high for human vocal cords. She half expected it to vanish, but it only reeled sideways, hissing. She seized the moment, jumping into the seat, trying to shove it aside. The creature recovered lightning fast, lashing out with inhuman strength. Its nails raked her forearm, drawing blood. She cried out, elbowing it back, fighting to keep it from her throat. Outside, the shapes pressed against the windows, shrieking in a cacophony of stolen voices. She glimpsed them smearing the glass with elongated fingers, some smiling, some scowling. The doppelganger lunged again, snapping jaws too close to her face. Leah twisted, kicking it in the chest. It slammed into the passenger door, screeching. She fumbled for the ignition. The keys were still in her pocket. She jammed them into the slot, turned. The engine sputtered. The creature lunged once more. She jammed her foot on the gas pedal. The jeep lurched, throwing the creature back. Headlights flared, revealing the row of shadowy figures in front. She slammed the jeep into reverse, ignoring the creature's flailing arms. The tires screeched on gravel. For a moment, she thought she might escape, but the cluster of shapes parted behind her, letting her see only the gloom of the forest boundary. She whipped the wheel around, sending the jeep fishtailing. The creature in the passenger seat snarled, clawing at her. She lashed out with her flashlight again, caving in its cheek. It let out a hideous shriek. She rammed the pedal. The jeep careened forward, headlights sweeping over the trees. She aimed for a gap between the shapes. Miraculously, the shapes scattered. She sped into the forest track, bouncing wildly over roots and ruts. The mimic thing next to her was still thrashing. She risked a glance, seeing it clutch the passenger door handle, face warped with fury. Grinding her teeth, Leah yanked the wheel to the left. The jeep sideswiped a thick pine, smashing the passenger door inward. The creature howled, pinned momentarily. She seized the chance to open the passenger door from the inside. The next jerk of the jeep flung the creature halfway out. It clawed at the seat. She stomped the brake, the momentum pitching it forward. With a final kick, she sent it tumbling onto the dirt. Breathing ragged, she slammed the door shut and gunned the engine again. In the rear view, she glimpsed the creature's contorted shape picking itself up, black eyes burning. Others rushed to it, voices echoing in the night. She tore down the forest road, branches scraping the sides. Heart hammered, adrenaline flooding her veins. If the track was blocked or ended, she'd be trapped. But after a minute, she recognized the approach to the main park road. She turned onto the paved route, tires squealing. Only then did she allow herself a shaky exhale. She was out of Redwood Canyon. At the ranger station, the interior lights seemed painfully bright. Leah parked haphazardly, staggering inside. Her uniform was torn, forearm bleeding. She collapsed into a chair, trying to steady her breathing. She grabbed the station's landline phone, miraculously still operational, and dialed the local sheriff's department. Her voice shook as she explained something attacked her in Redwood Canyon, mimicking voices, possibly killing a hiker. The dispatcher sounded perplexed, but promised to send units. Next, she radioed the other rangers. Thompson responded half asleep. She told him enough to convey the urgency. Do not go alone into Redwood Canyon. There's something out there. It can mimic voices, appearances. It's dangerous. She worried he might not believe her. But the raw fear in her tone must have convinced him. He said he'd notify the rest and keep the station locked until authorities arrived. Leah's mind reeled with unanswered questions. The man's warning, the horrific transformations, the illusions of voices. She prayed the lost friend or any other hikers might still be alive. But the memory of that pinned man's final scream haunted her. Dawn broke, bathing the station in pale light. 3 sheriff's cruisers arrived, accompanied by a paramedic team. Leah repeated her story, though she omitted some details that seemed too surreal, like the creature wearing her own face. She just said the attacker looked human but wasn't right, possibly multiple attackers. Skepticism warred with concern in the deputy's eyes. They found the jeep's damage, her wounds, and the footprints at the overlook suspicious, but not conclusive. Nonetheless, they formed a search party with armed officers and a few rangers. Leah was strongly advised to rest. The paramedics bandaged her forearm lacerations, suggesting a short hospital visit. She felt too shaken to argue. They loaded her onto a stretcher, but she insisted on seeing the search party off, giving them coordinates of the clearing where she found the disheveled man. The last glimpse she had of Redwood Canyon that morning was the line of official vehicles winding up the dirt road. She felt a pang of dread, praying the men and women in that convoy wouldn't hear a voice calling them deeper or see a shape that wore their faces. At the hospital, doctors cleaned and stitched her wounds. She was kept overnight for observation, partly due to dehydration and shock. Lying in that crisp hospital bed, she found no comfort in the fluorescent hum. She drifted into uneasy slumber. Nightmares plagued her again, dark shapes in the forest, voices twisting into her own. A version of herself creeping close, that same predatory grin. She woke in the darkness, heart pounding, the beep of medical monitors reminding her she was safe for now. But the memory of the chase lingered, as if the forest had extended its reach into her mind. At 3 a.m., half awake, she thought she heard her radio crackle. But that was impossible. Her radio was at the ranger station. Then a faint whisper drifted from the hallway. "Leah, help me." She bolted upright, fighting panic. A nurse's station lamp glowed beyond the door. She heard only distant footsteps. Probably another nightmare, she told herself. Clutching the sheets, she squeezed her eyes shut, determined to block out the illusions. The next day, the search party returned. The official report was both relieving and unsettling. They found signs of a struggle in Redwood Canyon, a patch of disturbed earth, bloodstains and footprints that vanished. But no bodies, no living hikers either. They scoured the area near the overlook, discovered Leah's scuffed water bottle, the battered passenger door from her jeep half bent. They found no sign of the mimic creatures. A few deputies grumbled about the wild goose chase. Others admitted the presence of blood, and strange footprints meant something attacked someone. But the forest was vast, easy to hide in. They concluded it might be a group of violent squatters or cultists. Leah knew better. She'd seen that thing's face. She recognized the unnatural unity of voices. She accepted that no official explanation would suffice. The park superintendent placed Redwood Canyon off limits temporarily, citing a dangerous fugitive incident. Leah returned to the ranger station a few days later, determined to carry on. She found the staff subdued, frightened by her stories and the evidence. No one patrolled Redwood Canyon alone anymore. One quiet afternoon, as she sorted supplies in the back room, her radio spat static. She froze, recalling that fateful night. Then a faint voice came through. "This is Ranger Thompson. Leah, do you read me?" Relief flooded her. She pressed the talk button. "Here, Thompson, go ahead." His tone was tense. "I'm at Boundary Post 4. I think I heard something on the wind, like a woman calling for help." Her heart thudded. "Stay sharp, don't go in alone," he exhaled shakily. "I won't. Just letting you know. Could be nothing." She closed her eyes, remembering the man's warning. Don't follow the voice. That night, she set up new perimeter sensors around Redwood Canyon's entrances. If anything crossed, at least they'd have a chance of detection. Despite caution, sightings trickled in. Campers hearing unknown voices at night, a shape glimpsed among trees near the canyon ridge. Each time, staff responded with caution, rarely finding anything. Redwood Canyon seemed to have become a den for these imposters, these imitators. As weeks passed, an uneasy stalemate formed. The forest remained vast, and the park's attempts to flush out the fugitives proved fruitless. Stories among rangers spread of shape-shifting forest spirits or malevolent entities. Some believed, some scoffed. Leah tried to remain level-headed, but her nightmares persisted. She started researching local legends, old folklore about mimic spirits or doppelganger creatures that lure travelers away. Nothing concrete turned up, but a repeated motif ran through them. Once it knows your voice, it can call you anywhere. It was a month after the attack when the final confrontation came. Late one evening, Leah was alone on shift, finishing paperwork. The station radio crackled again, a frantic, half-broken transmission. Ranger, Montgomery. Help. Redwood Canyon. Please. She stiffened. The voice belonged to Thompson. Or did it? Thompson, do you copy? Static. Leah, pinned. Hurry. Thompson's voice cracked. Her mind screamed it could be the imitator. But if it was truly Thompson, he could be in mortal danger. Torn. She grabbed her gear list out of duty, more out of raw fear for her friend. She radioed the other staff. Most were off duty, but she managed to raise one junior ranger who was an hour away. No immediate backup. Time was critical. She drove to Redwood Canyon's edge, adrenaline surging. The perimeter sensors beeped, indicating motion near the overlook. She parked, headlights illuminating the sign that read, "Closed Area Restricted." The gate was locked, but footprints scuffed the dirt. Cursing, she hopped the gate. The moon was a thin sliver, casting meager light. She toggled her flashlight, following the footprints. They were fresh, size matching a man's, possibly Thompson's. Within minutes, she reached a ridge overlooking the canyon, same place as before. The wind whipped her hair, carrying a scent of pine and damp earth. "Thompson," she called. No reply. She advanced. Then from below she heard a moan. "Leah, I'm stuck." She inched to the ledge, shining her flashlight down. A figure lay on a narrow shelf, maybe 10 feet below, pinned by a fallen branch. She recognized Thompson's uniform. Relief warred with dread. "Thompson, hold on." She uncoiled a rope from her pack, securing it to a sturdy trunk. Slowly, she rappelled down. The figure groaned, face partially hidden by the branch. She kneeled beside him, hands trembling. "Thompson, I'm here." He twisted, revealing an ashen face. "Leah, thank God." She reached to lift the branch, but it was heavier than expected. "Stay still," he grunted. "You're a lifesaver." Then, in her own voice, he repeated, "You're a lifesaver." Her blood froze. She jerked back. Thompson's face contorted, a predatory glint in his eyes. "No," she whispered. The branch wasn't pinned at all. The figure shoved it aside effortlessly, standing in a smooth, inhuman motion. Leah scrambled backward on the narrow ledge. He gave her a slow, twisted grin, voice cycling from Thompson's tone to Leah's to the disheveled man's. Always rushing in to help, she pressed against the cliff. The rope was her only escape. The creature advanced. Her mind screamed that this was a trap all along. Cold sweat drenched her as the creature closed in, each step sure-footed on the ledge. The drop behind her was at least 50 feet. It reached out, nails lengthening, scraping the rock. Leah's heart hammered. With a final act of desperation, she unhooked her harness from the rope and kicked off the ledge, swinging to the side. She landed on a small outcrop, nearly losing her grip. The creature hissed, leaning over, trying to grab her. She scrambled up, tugging on the rope. The top anchor seemed stable. Summoning all her strength, she scurried up the rope. The creature scrambled after her, climbing the cliff face with unnatural agility. Its voice, an amalgam of all the others, rose in a horrific growl. Finally, Leah hauled herself over the top, lungs burning. She dashed for the jeep she'd left by the restricted gate, but the creature lunged from below, leaping with inhuman speed to the top of the cliff. Under the moonlight, it stood before her, body rippling as if trying to decide which shape to take. For an instant, it flickered between the gaunt man, the doppelganger Leah, and something else, an elongated, pale figure with no distinct features. Its many voices hissed, "Stay!" Leah stumbled backward, refusing to yield. Summoning every ounce of courage, she hurled the lit flashlight at it, momentarily blinding it. Then she sprinted, heart pounding. The creature snarled, stumbling in the glare. She reached the jeep, flung the door open and started the engine. The headlights lit the thing, revealing a twisted, half-formed shape. It threw its arms over its face, shrieking. She slammed the gas pedal, weaving onto the road. The last glimpse she caught in the rear view was the creature's silhouette, shape flickering, merging with the darkness. Then it was gone. Leah never returned to Redwood Canyon after that night. She resigned from her ranger post within a week, citing trauma and an unwillingness to face whatever lurked in that forest. She gave a partial account to superiors, but the official record remained murky, some half-baked story about a dangerous sect, unexplained evidence, and missing hikers. In her nightmares, the creature still looms. Sometimes it wears her face. Sometimes it's that half-formed monstrosity. Her own voice echoes in her sleep, beckoning her back. Occasionally she sees news articles about Redwood Canyon's indefinite closure, mentions of unconfirmed sightings. She wonders how many rangers or hikers might hear a cry for help echoing among the pines and wander off to investigate. In her darkest moments, she fears the creature could track her down, repeating her voice outside her new apartment window at night, or lurking behind the next row of trees. She's seen enough to believe it might. Still, she clings to hope that by leaving Redwood Canyon, she's severed the link. That the forest's ancient hush and the illusions of voices remain sealed behind those gates. But on quiet nights, a faint static sometimes hisses from her old radio tucked away in the closet, a half-charged battery she swears she removed. And if she dares approach, she hears a whisper, her own voice saying, "Leah, it's me. Please help." That's when she remembers the final warning from that disheveled man. Don't follow the voice. So she never does, yet she wonders. If one day curiosity or guilt overcomes her, if she picks up that radio and answers back, will she hear her voice again? A broken echo from Redwood Canyon, calling her home to the place where shadows move and where the faces of the living. Because in Redwood Canyon, the hush at night is no longer peaceful. It's a trapper stage for the imitator to mimic your fears, your pleas, your very self. And once it knows your voice, it might call you from anywhere. Perhaps the only defense is silence, but silence, as Leah learned, can be the loudest summons of all.